Do you face difficulties in your life and do you quit? Is that something that you've agreed that is okay for you to live by? Do you face the difficulties and move forward and never give up? If you're that type of man that doesn't quit, that finds reasons why he should continue even though he made a mistake, then you're the example that your family needs. If you're quitting and you're married, you gave your wife the reason why she should leave you. By not giving up, you've told your wife that she's valuable. And if you have kids and you're not giving up, you're setting the example for them to continue to make mistakes and to grow and to develop. We set the example for our family and the standard to live by. And by you facing difficulties on a day-to-day basis, by you rising to the occasion and learning from your mistakes, then you are teaching them that they should do the same thing. Our lives aren't pre-programmed for us. In fact, we have to go out and make mistakes for us to learn and develop. The worst thing is to consistently win because we never get the opportunity to learn. Learning comes from mistakes in our lives. And until we are willing to go out and try new things and to be willing to make a mistake by willing to not get what we want, then we will always come short of the man that we want to be. Surround yourself with men who are willing to hold you accountable for being the best version of yourself and calling you out on the mistakes that you make so you can be held accountable to being better. And if you're finding difficulties in your life, remember that outlasting the difficulties that you have faced is the key to your success. By outlasting everything possible, you can guarantee that you will be the success that you've always dreamed of. As long as you're continuing to build and to grow and to develop the skills of being the man that you want to be remembered by, will always give you the opportunity to be the man that you want to be remembered as. Roll that intro. Welcome to the Man Up and Own It podcast, where we deal with situations and experiences that men face on a day-to-day basis. We deal with the opportunity to grow and to be better by giving you the experiences that a man can live by. And today I want to give you the opportunity to meet someone that I have respected and learned from and understood that outlasting everything is what I have to do if I want to create the success that I've always dreamed of. My friend, Tab Pierce.
Man, that's quite the introduction, dude. Thank you. That was awesome. Really like that.
Well, you deserve it. You've overcame so much, and we have a little bit different relationship than most people that I interview. I've actually seen you change your life, and you've outlasted being less than what you were capable of.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you're talking about outlast everything, because man, that is obviously, that's the title of the book I'm working on right now, but that is the way that I live my life. Mm-hmm. And so if people can learn to do that, man, they can accomplish anything, but people can't do that. And that sounds cynical, whatever you want to call it, but I see it every day where I see people just stop. And all you have to do is that's an oversimplification by saying, you outlast everything. But it is a process. It's a mindset. It's the way you live your life.
Well, it's not like you just woke up and decided that you were going to outlast everything. I'm sure you made mistakes in your life, right?
Yeah.
But you never gave up. And by not giving up is where the outlast everything really developed, right?
Yeah, well, I have given up in times, right? Dude, I'm 59 years old, man. There's a couple of times in my life I'm not leveled up to where I feel like I should have leveled up.
Okay.
And I mean, I improved, I got better, I everything, right? But there's a few times in my life, like when we go to the gym and like I feel like I left something on the table. And just in that 1 second, I'm like, man, I know I could have done more. And so I sit there and I think, well, I either let that stick in my head. I'm not going to be able to stop thinking about that at all. It's just going to sit there. Or I go to lift the weights and I forget about it.
Right.
And so you learn that you have to do that hard thing and you have to, be committed to yourself, right? I mean, it's just a process of expecting the very best from yourself.
Right. And you have realistic expectations. You know that when you show up and you give it your all, that you're going to get something positive back. But it's not like you show up at the gym and expect for you just to be skinny or be super buff.
Yeah.
I might tell you that you're super buff.
But we know
day.
the truth, man. Come on.
I mean, you put 19 pounds of muscle on.
Well, and that's true. It's a constant battle because there's the logical side of us and there's the emotional side of us. And the logical side of it is like, I've lost a lot of weight. I've now put on a lot of muscle. I'm getting stronger. I'm getting better, everything else. But I'm not where I need to be. So logically, I know that, right? Emotionally, I'll look in the mirror sometimes when we're at the gym, and there's too many freaking mirrors. I'm just joking, but there's a lot of mirrors there, right? So you can't like not see yourself. And every once in a while, I'll see myself, and I'm like, whoa, I got a long way to go. And then that's the emotional side of it, right? And then you got to come back to the logical side and say, what do you expect? Mm-hmm. Did you expect to come into the gym one time, maybe a month, 2 months, and then be ripped at 59 years old? It's just not going to happen.
So what's a nugget that some man out there could take away for when they have situations like that, when they've been working their ass off and they look in the mirror and that emotional side kicks in? How can they deal with that in an appropriate way?
In my world, everything comes down to a plan. I plan every aspect of my life. And so I see the things coming that I expect to see, and I see the things coming that I don't expect to see. And you have to realize there's this weird thing for us as people where we logically know that if we're trying to go from point A to point B, that we're not going to get there in a straight line. It's going to be messed up in the middle in there, but we're going to get, maybe if we're lucky, we're going to get to point B. But when it starts going squirrely or whatever, we act like, oh my gosh, I thought this is just going to be a straight line. And so we have to be prepared for things to not go the way that you want them to. And then you persevere. And I talk a lot about the difference between being consistent and being persistent. And that's something that people have a really hard time with because they don't understand the difference between the two, the significance of both, and how they both play with each other. And yeah, it's a big deal.
Could you define persistence?
Okay, well, so consistent people get, right? It's like doing the same thing over and over every day.
So that's consistent.
That's consistent. Persistence is when persistence kicks in when consistency fails.
Yes.
Right. So when you wake up in the morning, you've had a bad night, like I said, I wear this whoop strap, right? That tells me how much weight, or not, but doesn't tell me my weight, but tells me how much sleep I got, right?
Yes.
And so I got 4 hours and 21 minutes of sleep last night. Dude, I'm freaking exhausted, right? I could have said, I'm not feeling it today, right? Because I wasn't. 4 hours and 21 minutes. But persistence had to kick in and do the things I needed to do when consistency failed. So the persistence is that dog determination that you're just going to get in there and do it no matter what. And that's the breakdown most men have.
Now, I want to speak to something right now that the people out there aren't going to know anything about. That this morning, and this is relative to what he just said, he only got a few hours of sleep. He was up at the same time that I was up at 4 o'clock, and he sent me a message caring about me in this podcast to make sure I had the people to come in. Now, I appreciate that. That's that persistency. And you knew the other day when we trained that I was kind of stressing out about it. I was kind of having a bad day. And you stepped in as a quality friend to make sure that my gears were lined up and I was still being persistent to create this consistency.
Yeah. I mean, things stepped out, right? I mean, you had 4 people, you had 2 people, one of the people I think stepped back in, and then you needed a 4th, right? You could get caught up in going, it didn't work. Right? But it's always not going to work. And so you have to do the thing that pushes it to that extra step. And that's that like point A to point B that gets squirrely and messy and stuff like that you got to be like, I'm just going to do it.
Now, how valuable do you think it is to have other men around you to help get you centered back in?
I think the right men around you to help you get centered back in, right? That's the thing, because there's plenty of men out there that just frankly, I don't really deal with them much because they're not going to be at the caliber or the level that they need to be for themselves. Man, how in the world can they level up to help me when I need that help?
Right.
And so some of the people that I associate with, and I seek out people that are that highest quality and caliber people, and those are the people that I associate with, and I'm always looking for who are they, where are they, where am I going to find them? And the cool thing is, this dude totally sounds arrogant, and I don't really give a crap, right? Like, what's cool is like a lot of these guys that we know that are at a very high level, they'll come to me often and like say, hey, what should I do in this situation? Right? And so that's pretty cool, because now all of a sudden I've got this individual that I think of highly that's coming to me and asking me for advice. That's pretty cool, man.
It speaks a lot about your character. And I think we have let that go lax in our society, especially as men. We're more interested in being liked versus respected. And I think that speaks towards the way people view you as they respect you. Now, on your journey that you have had since we have got you buffer and actually improved your wardrobe, have you seen a difference in the way people treat you?
Well, let's just admit, man, my wardrobe has surpassed what you're wearing. I like passed you up, bro. You know, I mean, I just went like leapfrogged.
I'm kind of proud of you. Like, honestly, I think as a coach, that's what we hope for our students.
I'm messing, right? You know, I'm messing around. But yeah, you know, what's funny is, and we have this conversation, you know, I get men that'll come up to me and go, is that a Robert Greene? Is that his
Graham?
name? Graham? I don't even know what the hell the dude's name is. Is that a Robert Graham shirt? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, that's a nice shirt. And I'm like, dude, okay, first of all, who the hell is Robert Graham? I don't know who he is, other than the fact that you hooked me up and I'm wearing his clothes now. The other one is you're a grown-ass man, and you know designer clothes like that just kind of freaks me out, right? Because I'm just not like that. That's not me, right? I mean, I'm a kid that grew up in the 70s that wore tough skin pants from Sears, right? This whole fashion stuff, man, that's new to me. And I'm embracing it, right? And, you know, but it's a process of getting that. But truth is that I feel like 100% better when I dress well. And I walk in, you know, it's the dedication to my physical. And I'm always dedicated to my mental, but now the exterior, and it's a total plug for you with Dapper and Fit, right? And that's like both of those play in together.
Right.
And, you know, you walk in, you know, much taller and bigger and broader and wider than you do otherwise.
Absolutely. Do you believe that men could do better about taking care of themselves and presenting themselves in our society today?
Oh, I don't think it's just our society today, dude. I mean, as long as I can remember, I'm like, anybody smell that? Dude, you need a shower. How long has it been? It's only been a week. Yeah, man. You know, most of us shower a little bit more often than a week. I mean, I'm joking, but it's always been a challenge for men. And now it's a challenge for different reasons. Then it was men did a lot more physical labor. So there's a lot of There was a lot of sweating, a lot of hard work, a lot of physical labor. And so, like I remember my dad getting home from work and just like crashing. I mean, oh, you want him to go take a bath or a shower or whatever? I'm just like, most of us now, it's just like, oh, I want to go do, I want to play my video games. I want to play on the phone. I want to do this. I want to do that. And so other things are taking the place of things like hygiene, right? But yeah, I mean, men don't care like they used to. And there is something about the way that you handle yourself, the way that you dress, everything, that you don't even have to be the most educated, the best, the most talented or anything else. If you look it and you present yourself like it, you can get a long way in life.
Absolutely.
Then, I mean, it really, to look like a guy like, what's his name, Zuckerberg? I mean, that dude earned it.
Right.
Right? I mean, he's done the work to dress like a freaking slob.
But it's interesting, though, when he has to show up in Congress or has some big meeting,
He looks good.
he looks good
Yeah.
because it matters.
Yeah.
We make decisions or judgment calls off of what we see first. How do you think a man could be at his best for a first impression? What advice would you give for some man?
Okay, this is probably going to be just, it may seem random, but just hear me out. If you do what you say you're going to do in life for yourself, you wake up and you do the things that you say you're going to do, and you do not break from what you say you're going to do, and you live a life that is, honest to yourself, and you have that integrity, and you just do what you want to do, and you do what you say you're going to do, and you live like that. You walk into situations with your head held high and confidence, because everything else that you do, and it's one of the things I talk to people about, like, about when I talk about, like, yeah, man, I have a system where I can put anything into my system, and I'll finish it. It does not matter, and that's a hard thing, because I watch people, and people don't have that ability. It's not that difficult, but when you do that, you arrive like with a lot of confidence, and that confidence pushes forth that first impression.
Absolutely. I feel like when we don't do what we say we're going to do, especially on the most minute level, the little things, it creates self-doubt, which then manifests into imposter syndrome. Now, it's interesting that you brought up the opportunity pipeline, your system that you've created to help structure that. Would you like to divulge some of that?
Yeah. So first of all, imposter syndrome is only imposter syndrome if you are an imposter. If you're a screw up and you don't do what you say you're doing, and you don't live that way, you're not an imposter. That is who you are.
Oh, that's interesting.
So people think about, like, an imposter syndrome is when I sit back and I say, I don't think I'm good enough.
Okay.
Or I've done this, or I've done that, or I thought I was this, I thought I was that. I'm not that. I suck, right? And you start to believe the crap that you're telling yourself, and you start to live that life of doubt, right? But you really are good, but you have that imposter syndrome. Sometimes people think it's an imposter syndrome when it's not, because they actually are not doing the things that they should do. So,
Okay. So do you think that might lead into them being the screw up that you described?
yeah, I screw up. Whatever. I mean, it's just screw up's kind of hard, but yeah, it really is. If we're not doing the things that we set up to do. Okay, now you talk about the opportunity pipeline. So let me talk just briefly. One of the things that I teach in it is, and every night before I go to bed, I set up my day in the opportunity pipeline down to the hour. Okay. Now the hour gets messed up all day long, but what I'm after is 80 to 90% completion of the day. Because if I can complete the day, I can do that for a week, I can do that for a month, I can do that for a year, and then I can repeat over and over again and get massive results. But the thing is like, if I set up the night before and I don't do the things that I say I'm going to do, I start to live a disingenuous life for myself. So how do I show up for anybody else if I can't show up for me?
That's a very good statement right there.
And, and it's like, when like I believe, and I don't believe in being honest to a fault, but I believe in being honest. And I grew up with a dad that hid things, right? Like he had health issues, and so he'd want a candy bar and he'd like hide it. And my mom would be like, "Calvin, did you have a candy bar?" And he'd be like, "Nope." I'd be like, "Dad, I was with you, man." Or stuff like that. I'm like, like all kinds of like little lies, little false truths, right? And so I grew up going, man, I am not gonna lie. And I remember getting married, telling Catherine, saying, look, if I want to smoke, I'm gonna start smoking. I'm not gonna hide it. And I never wanted. That was an easy one, right? Because I never wanted to smoke.
Right.
But I said, I'm not gonna hide it. And so we had a conversation the other day, and she said, "You said da 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 da." And I said, "I didn't say that." And she goes, "Yeah, you did." And I'm like, "I guarantee you, I didn't say that." Yeah, you did. I'm like, "I guarantee you, I did not say that." I'm like, "Tell me exactly what it is I said." I said that, but that is not what I meant. I meant this. And she's like, "Oh, okay." And the reason why I was so adamant is because I do not lie.
What did she say that you said? I'm just curious.
We were talking about Mastery Alliance, our program, right? And we were getting ready for the conference. It's been a little bit, right? We were getting ready for it. And she's like, "Well, because I was talking about like she has to create. She's got all this great ability." I'm like, "Oh, you got to create. You got to create. You got to create." And so she comes in and she's like, "Well, I could do this with Mastery Alliance." And I said, "No, Mastery Alliance is mine."
Oh, okay. I remember this now.
And then, but see, what I meant was you can't hang your hat on what I created. You create what you need to do. And what she took was, get your hands off my Mastery Alliance, which is not what I said. I was like, "I didn't say that." And she's like, "Yeah, you did." And I'm like, "No, I didn't. I guarantee you." So I just say that because if I can have authenticity to myself, I don't ever have to worry about it.
Right.
I mean, I don't lie. So it's like, I'm not in your face, but I'm never going to lie to anybody. I'm just going to be like,
right,
this is it, because I don't have to manage that.
And I think it's a very valid point there of what you said, that what you said isn't what you meant. And sometimes what we say to people isn't what we meant. And if we're doing the things that we say what we're doing, it's easy for us to go back and reiterate the information in a way that they can understand it without having insecurities.
Yeah.
Because if we're not doing what we say we're going to do, we're going to have insecurities, and then we're going to do whatever we need to protect ourselves, which is usually very negative.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. And as men, that those insecurities, we hate them, right? And we do everything we can to puff up the chest and look like we're, something. And, but those insecurities come in and then we start to break down. Mm-hmm. And so, we've kind of got to guard that all the time.
Absolutely. And hold ourselves accountable, right? I think that's one thing that I value about our relationship is we hold ourselves accountable to it.
Yeah.
Like when I'm having a bad day, you find your ways to like pull that shit out of me and get rid of it and help me be the man that I want to be, and vice versa, I hope.
Yeah, yeah. And what's interesting about my personality is that I can be really intense, and I usually am intense, but I joke a lot. I'm always cracking it up. And I do that for me because I have a lot going on all the time. Mm-hmm. I mean, I run a couple of businesses. We're out there training all the time. I've got, I'm putting on conferences. I've always got a lot going on. I've got employees, I've got stress, I've got all this. So I could be pissed off or I could crack up, right? And sometimes when I crack up, people take that as, my intensity level or whatever isn't there. And usually they'll let their guard down, and that's when things break down. Not for me, but for them.
For them, right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Hey, you've been married for how long now?
Been married for 36 years.
36 years. And it was funny last night after we got through training, you kind of reminded me that you've been married almost as long as I've been
I'm old
alive.
enough to be your daddy, boy.
Boy, aren't you?
I'm old enough to be your papa. I'm old enough to be your daddy.
You know, what advice could you give to men out there about having a successful long-term relationship?
This is a great question. You know, first of all, if you're dating someone and there's red flags, those red flags aren't going to go away, man. Like, don't marry somebody if there's red flags. If there's red flags, just look at your girlfriend or whatever and just go, I know we had planned to get married, but this isn't going to work out, right? So if there's red flags, don't do it. Like when I met my wife, I had these plans about I'm not going to get married till I'm 30, but I dated a lot and I'd date a girl and I'd be like, I don't like that. I'm getting out. What I didn't realize is I was positioning myself to find the right one. And I met Catherine and I was like, man, I didn't say there's no red flags. It's like, oh, this is awesome. This, and this. And so we set that up from the beginning. And it's really, I was 22, right? And she was 20, 3 days past 20, right? And so we got married. And so there's a lot of things we didn't know. We still don't know because, life's a journey, right? But there's a lot of things we didn't know. But that was one of the things that we did well. And then it was somebody from church that had said, we were talking to them and they said, if you can give 100% of your effort, your time, your talent, everything you can to your spouse, then you'll have a marriage that is, unbelievable. Mm-hmm. Now, the thing is your spouse has to be in agreement with that, right?
Right.
They have to give 100% because if you both give 100%, you still end up with 100%, but you end up with the other person's 100%, and that's what we live by, and we live by respect. Mm-hmm. So I never say anything that I'm going to regret and wish I didn't say. I've never used the divorce word. I've never used anything that I have to come back and go, well, no, there's a couple times early on in my marriage.
But you learned from it.
Yeah, and they weren't that bad. I just was like, oh.
Yeah, but she held you accountable and you didn't take it up the butt and act out. You took the criticism and changed from it.
I was scared, bro. I was scared. Man, I mean, she's 5'3" and about 115 pounds, and she's like, don't you ever call me that again. I'm like, yes, dear. It's like, I don't know where that demon came from, but we didn't have Karens back then, but I would have thought she was a Karen in training for that moment.
Well, and one thing that I really respect about her is she gives it her all for everything that she does.
Yeah.
And, we wouldn't be on this journey if she wouldn't have supported you and actually held you accountable to being your best.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and she goes to the gym, mm-hmm. and she's right in the middle of it, man. She's like right in the middle of, and I laugh because she'll go, grab her weights, go sit on a bench, and there's all these guys around her that she's old enough to be their mom, and I'm like, they're probably scared, not her, because somebody like their mom's age is like over there, exercising, and that's kind of how she is, and that's kind of the way we live our life. Is we live our life, honestly, full throttle, man. I mean, it's like. I grew up with a dad and a mom that came home from work. My mom would get home early. She'd make dinner. My dad would eat dinner. My dad would lie down on the floor, watch TV until he fell asleep. My mom would sit there on the couch doing crossword puzzles or whatever she did. And then she would go over at about 10 o'clock at night. Cal, it's time to go to bed. Mm-hmm. Every day. And he'd been in bed or sleep on the ground since like 7:30, right?
Oh,
so
wow.
That whole time. And so I was like, I remember as a kid going, that's probably what you do when you get older. Like, I mean,
right.
I'm gone Catherine and I are gone all the time doing things. And, that's just a life that we chose and that we live, and we absolutely love it. And I don't see that stopping ever. Mm-hmm.
Well, it was interesting that what she said to us after we saw that you had gained 19 pounds of muscle, mm-hmm. that she was inspired to do for herself by what she saw you do. Now, explain to the men out there how the husband, the man in the relationship, sets the example and the standard of living for the family.
Well, I had a hard time with this, right, for a while, because it was like, you know, I don't necessarily want to be the person in the relationship that falls to. I don't want to be the person in the relationship that takes the lead. I want it to be us equally. But it's not, right? And she'll tell you, she'll say it. She's like, yeah, I mean, what you do, I follow.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of pressure in that, okay? Because you got to do what you say you're going to do. And I don't know. There's a lot of women out there that want that they want a strong man, a man that leads, and a man that does manly things, regardless of what society tells us what is the new norm. Most women out there expect a man or want a man that's going to be a man.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you can live up to that, the more you can do that, the better off you are. And that doesn't take away from the woman.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I fully support Catherine in the gym, doing her thing, lifting and everything else. And I didn't say, you need to go lift. You need to go exercise. That was my thing. She just looked at me and went, well, if you're going to do it, I need to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And when we acquired Network Live, and that was, I said, I'm going to do this. And she's like, I want to do it too.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so it's, I hate the term we're equally yoked, because people will say like, oh, we're equally yoked. It's like a yoke means that I've got something around my neck and she's got something around her neck. We're not yoked, right? We're equally engaged in the same thing, but it is not yoked. We don't have that. I mean, we're the leaders of our life. We don't have somebody driving us. So I don't like the term yoked, but I do like that we're equal partners in what we do. Just very different.
Right. But you have different roles too.
Exactly. And the roles they're okay, dude. They're not bad. I mean, it's like we get this idea that, the male role is, somehow bad, right? It's like, no, it's not. There are bad men.
Absolutely.
There are bad women.
Absolutely.
And we're not, but we can be, historically, men have been strong and men have been the ones that have gone to war. Men are the ones that support. Men are the ones that do these things and women do something else. Mm-hmm. It's just been within the last, 40 or 50 years that shifts. And my mother was like an early onset feminist.
Interesting.
Yeah. And which is why I still to this day have a hard time, because that was the way I was taught. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I have these male tendencies that I'm a driver and I drive in everything that I do. And I justify it because, not justify it. I manage it because I'm like, it doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman that's in front of me. I'm freaking taking charge. That's just the way my mentality is.
But that's who you are as an individual.
And so it's like, I'm like, she's just, but I'm not, I'm always very cautious and polite with everybody. I'm very, I don't want that to sound like I'm bulldozing.
I don't think the word cautious is appropriate. I think the word is conscientious.
Conscientious, yeah.
Because you are very mindful of the way you present yourself.
Cautious isn't the right word. Conscientious is a better word for that.
Because you're a very smart man and you're very tactful on top of that. You know how to move your way in a room, and like you said earlier, using comedy, using jokes to break the ice or make someone feel a little bit more comfortable. I mean, you're not a small man. You're what, 6'3"? You got tree trunks
Give or
for
take
legs.
3 inches.
Yeah.
No, I'm just like 6 feet, maybe 6'1".
Okay. Well,
6'3".
This is
I
like
was thinking I was like 6'5", but yeah, we'll go with 6'3".
This is like the NBA roster here. We're looking at a few extra inches. But the stature that you bring, there has to be very tactful movements that go along with it, or you will be perceived in a way that's not beneficial to you.
Yeah, and life is really just a fun journey, and it's a fun thing to experience and fun to learn what's going on and you know because of what I do in Network Live and what Catherine and I do, we end up being in the public eye a lot. And it's interesting because when we go to other cities outside of Phoenix, it's like, oh, Tap and Catherine's here. Oh, did you know Tap's here? Whatever. Phoenix, psh, we're just like those two. I mean, because they get so much of us that we're always here. That it was. I was talking to somebody who works with Alice Cooper. You don't know Alice Cooper because you're young. He's
I know who Alice Cooper is.
Okay, I didn't know, man.
He's a screamer.
Yeah, he's a screamer. But you're a young guy. You think everything's freaking Justin Bieber and the Backstreet Boys, man. It's not. There was good music before that. Punk ass kids. Anyway, but she said,
just for note, I do not like Justin Bieber. Backstreet Boys, give me a little Justin Timberlake, we good.
Yeah, all he knows is when the boys come, he wants to be just in time.
Anyway, this is what I got to deal with at the gym every day.
Oh yeah, man. You got to bring your A game on the comedy, man, because I just keep it flowing, even if I can't back it up. Dude, what the hell are we even talking about? No, but it's. It was this lady that said Alice Cooper only does one concert in Arizona a year because if people can see him at Safeway, they diminish who he is. And so it's this kind of, like we have to expand outside of Phoenix, like in what we're doing because we're the value and things that we bring. And this was great for us to start here. We're slowly gonna just like not, we'll slowly not exit Phoenix, but make the Phoenix footprint smaller and have a bigger footprint nationally.
Well, right. I know when we went to El Paso and we did the event there, that one of the ladies came up to me and thanked us for coming, and she made a comment that has stuck to me. She's like, "Thank you so much for coming here. You guys are like celebrities.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving us your time." And it's a very good point that you make. If we're available all the time, it reduces our value or our perceived value because we're accessible.
It's the perceived value. It's like I'm doing this Jumpstart 2024. I do this Jumpstart every year, right? And I don't even charge hardly anything for it. And there is so much value in it that the majority of the people that I know will not spend the money to do it because either it's because it's us or because they think that they know it or whatever it is. But there's this perception that if you're readily available, that that it's easy. And it's just really a unique world that we live in, that if we have something available to us, we don't value it as much.
Well, look at, I like designer clothes. And you look at like what makes designer clothes so desired. It's the fact that it's so expensive and not everybody can just get their hands on it readily.
Yeah.
That's what makes people want it so bad. So I got a question for you. Why don't we do that for ourselves? Why don't we value ourselves more? Is it because that we're always looking in the mirror at ourselves?
I think there's either one of two things. We either don't value ourselves enough or we value ourselves too much.
Interesting.
And there are people out there that don't see their worth, and they need to see their worth. And it's because, they're able to look at everything about them, themselves at a depth and level that nobody else can do, right? I mean, they can look themselves in the mirror and go, look at the wrinkles. And then somebody else would be like what wrinkle? And like, yeah, if you notice, like right here, I got this. I mean, because we can do that, right? We can see things that nobody else can see. and we do that mentally too, right? We'll pick at everything we do, and we will critique ourselves down to a level that we would never do to anybody else. It's phenomenal that we do that. And then there's the other people that don't really shouldn't have an inflated self-belief because they're not that good, but they think they're that good. And you see both of them, right? And so somewhere in the middle lies the balance of feeling good about yourself and believing in yourself, but not buying into your own
bullshit
greatness. Like when we talked about El Paso, you brought it up, and people go, oh, we're so glad you're here. We're so glad. And like, I'm always like, oh, thank you. And I'm gracious, right? I'm like, oh, thank you. Appreciate that. This is nice, and that, but I never ever like leave going, man, I freaking really am the man.
Right.
I really am. Just like when people here can devalue what it is that we bring, I don't look at that as devaluing who I am. I mean, I've got to be true to myself, and I've got to be consistent, and I have to have a good, solid belief in myself, but it has to be tempered by humility. Right. I mean, and it's that balance of humility and the balance of a strong self-worth and strong self-belief.
Interesting. Well, can you tell the people out there how they can get in contact with you?
Yeah. So my parents didn't set out to do this, but God bless them. There's not many people out there with the name of Tab, right? So there's 2 Tab Pierces. There's a dude here, me. There's a dude in Oklahoma. And so if you look, he's not that available, but you can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, X or Twitter, though I don't do that much because that's a freaking cesspool. But you can find me on Instagram, tabpierce@gmail.com. There's a host of ways that people say they can't find me. They ain't looking, bro.
Yep. And if you want to get involved in his networking group, it's Networked Live. We got some great things going on. Prescott, February 3rd.
Yep.
It's going to be an amazing event. You get to see this amazing man talking about outlasting everything.
Yeah.
So if you want to improve your life and you want to do great things and the opportunity is around you, take advantage of it. Just like watching this podcast and getting the information that you could possibly use to improve your situation. Thank you for watching the Man Up and Own It podcast. And it's been a pleasure, my man. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you.